Okay, this is the Math 3 Unit 4 practice test. Starting with number 1, given the rational function f of x equals -5 over x plus 7 minus 2, state any vertical and horizontal asymptotes. So our asymptotes are found based off of our translations. So I want to look at my horizontal and my vertical translations. I don't need to worry about my reflection at all. So if I have x plus 7, that means I go which direction by 7? Left 7. And if I take my function and subtract 2 from the end, that means I go which direction by 2? Down 2. Okay, this should give me my horizontal and vertical asymptotes. So if I'm going to the left by 7, am I going to hit an x value or a y value on my coordinate plane if I start from 0, 0 and go left by 7? An x value. So that's going to give me my vertical asymptote, which means I write down x is equal to, left 7 is -7. So that's my vertical asymptote. It goes straight up and down. My horizontal asymptote had to go down 2, so that goes through a y value, which means my y is equal to -2. So remember, left and right is your x value because your x-axis goes left and right. Up and down is your y value because your y-axis goes up and down. Does that make sense? All right. Questions about number 1? Okay, number 2. Simplify. Anytime I'm going to simplify, I will factor my numerator and denominator and then reduce my factors. So starting with my numerator, I have a greatest common factor of 7. And that leaves me with 4 minus x. You can write this in standard form first, and it might help you so that when you factor your difference of squares that they match perfectly. But my denominator is a difference of squares. So x times x is x squared. Positive 4 times -4 gives me -16. And then I also know my middle terms are 4x and -4x, which cancel out to 0, which is good because I don't have a middle term on this problem. So let's see what matches. So nothing currently matches, but I do have a 4 minus x and an x minus 4. But I want a positive x and a -4. So if I factor out a -1 from this numerator, what would that make the 7? A -7. And if I factor out a negative, that's going to change every sign that I have. So I have -7. Now I have a positive x and a -4. And then my denominator is x plus 4 and x minus 4. So the x minus 4 over x minus 4 equals 1, which means I'm left with -7 over x plus 4. Taking a look at the numerator one more time, if I would have rewrote that as -7x plus 28, I could have factored out the -7 right away. And then that would have left my binomial as x minus 4. That might have been more simple. All right, so -7 over x plus 4 is that solution, or that simplified expression, not solution. All right, number 3. in order to simplify, I need to factor. So we're going to factor the numerator. We're going to do the short method. So we're going to guess and check this one. X times x is x squared. I need two numbers that multiply to 40 and add to 13. 8 and 5. Very good. Positive 8 times positive 5 is positive 40. 8x plus 5x is 13x. My denominator, we're going to do the same thing, guess and check. X times x is x squared. I need two numbers that multiply to negative 35 and add to negative 2x. Negative 7, positive 5. We can check that by doing negative 7x plus 5x is negative 2x. So we want to check that middle term. We can also check that negative 7 times positive 5 is negative 35. Good. So those are both right. So now we can start to reduce. So any factor over itself equals 1. So x plus 5 over x plus 5 equals 1. And that just leaves me with x plus 8 over x minus 7. But this problem asks for your excluded values. So if at any point you're asked for your excluded values, you want to list what they are. And those are the x values that would make your denominator equal to 0. So what number would I plug in for x in my final solution that would make it equal to 0? 7. Is that the only excluded value? No, because I put a comma, right? We want to check our factored form. So what other number can I plug in for x that would make my denominator equal 0? Negative 5. So positive 7 minus 7 is 0, and negative 5 plus 5 is 0. Questions? All right, now we are getting into multiplying and dividing. So with multiplying fractions, you just multiply straight across. I'm going to put any of my polynomials in parentheses. And once I multiply, you're going to notice I put all of my monomials out front, which doesn't look different for my numerator. But for my denominator, I'm going to put the x squared out in front because it's a monomial. And you're just used to seeing them written that way, so that's why we write it that way. You can put it at the end, and it doesn't change the value, but this helps you know what to reduce. Okay, when you're simplifying, you're going to do your operation first, and then simplify.